Alright, so here we start off with Bitcoin, of course, as always, starting off in the short-term time frame. So I want to follow up on the last 24 hours of price action. We were identifying some potential hidden bearish divergence yesterday, right here. I think it was better seen on CME. And yes, it was confirmed on that move down below about $41,000. So that did initiate our targets down to the base of our current range, that being about the low $39,000. That has been fulfilled. And so where does that kind of lead us on for, the next week to come, of which there is a humongous signal building up that will be confirmed or not confirmed potentially as soon as tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is going to be the big focus of today's video. Now, for the short-term timeframes, keep in mind that we are, basically on a holiday right now. And during holidays, things are typically slow. Things are typically uneventful. Things are typically sideways for what it's worth. So in this case, I really don't want to be focusing too much on the short-term timeframes. But as far as the range goes, it's actually the same thing as before. Now, I do suspect that Bitcoin very likely does retest the bottom side of this range yet again. Sorry, the LARP lines from yesterday played out, so we can just get rid of them. We don't need them right there. Okay. Goodbye, LARP lines. It was nice knowing you. Fuck off. Anyways, in this case, I do suspect that we probably get maybe another wick down around here. Over the weekend or today, something like that. And then probably hold the range overall. The range being between about, not this low, it would be a little bit higher than this. The range being between about $41,000, the breakdown level from yesterday, and as a ceiling, and the bottom at about 39,200, our current lows of this week. In this case, I'm actually going to get rid of this right here. I do think it would be appropriate to be a little bit more on the aggressive side, but ultimately, I wouldn't be calling any sort of major move to the upside in this case, even from a short-term time frame perspective, until at minimum you're seeing 4-hour dildos being closed above $41,000. If Bitcoin can do that, which this is a big if, I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying that if it were to do that, as I get rid of our rejection notifications right there, from yesterday, I would be looking for a nice leg up, actually, somewhere between about $42,500 to $43,000, which would have major implications as we're going to look at on the higher term timeframes. Now, again, this is all hopium right now. I do lean a little bit more on the bearish side, probably coming into the next couple of weeks. But again, until we actually get validations on these sort of ideas, I do not act on them myself. And I mean, to be quite frank, I actually don't trade these higher term timeframes anyways. I trade lower term timeframes for my own self, but it is kind of fun to do the general analysis on YouTube here. Anyways, as far as this goes, what do we see on the 4-hour time frame? 4-hour RSI is obviously weak right now, probably, and that is kind of making me think that we do get another test down around here. I do not think that we have the momentum to actually break the current lows in this case. So what does that essentially mean, or what would that imply? Well, that would imply that we would have a full-on break of our current lows with any sort of a 4-hour closure. Maybe even an hourly as well would be good enough, although I would probably adjust the targets a bit, below about 39,200. If that condition is met, then I would be looking for a big move down for the lower term timeframes, somewhere between about 37 to 37,500-ish region, basically the lows of what we did see from early March and in February right here. I would be looking for a move like that. Again, I do think that the most likely thing to happen right here is just sideways over the weekend, most likely sets it up for a move coming into next week. We are about to see a contraction phase on 4-hour BBWP. Also makes me think that we probably just play out the range for what it's worth, at least, for the majority of today. So with that in mind, let's go reference short-term timeframe stochastic momentum, see if there's anything that's obvious right now. And we do see that 6-hour will show pressure down with any sort of a closure below 40,300. Obviously, Bitcoin's trading below that right now. It's a lot of time left to go until closure, 35 minutes. So yeah, certainly more on the downside for one more test of the downside. 4-hour time frame is obviously nosediving, as we did identify from yesterday, off of that break of our current short-term time frame range, that being held below about 41,100. If we go to the 3-hour, which I quite like as well, we do see downside pressure below 40,600, and hourly is probably going to be flippy-floppy, probably up right now, and it is up above about 39,700. So what does this align with? When we do see bifurcation between these lower-term time frame stochastic momentum, likely sideways, probably test the downside yet again, but I don't think that we actually have the momentum to really break just yet. If we're going to see a break to the downside, I do think that it likely happens next week. Not super married to that idea. Again, over the holiday sort of periods, I'm not like super interested in that. And then also another reason why I do think it'd be a little bit less likely to see this breakdown today, for example, would be the funny rates over here. If we go down to the hourly data feed, it is slightly negative. Again, we do expect negative rates during general downtrends, obviously, but But, just another small thing, again, on a slow holiday day, that does suggest that, while we probably do test down around there, I don't think that we will actually break it as of right now. So with that in mind, we should also now reference perhaps the hopium case, if you will. I do still think that there is a hopium case for Bitcoin. The biggest and most obvious precondition for this is going to be, of course, trading back above the 618 Fibonacci retracement from our overall range for the last few months here. Now, this would imply that any sort of a daily closure above $44,000 would essentially complete the bear trap, initiate targets up towards $51,000 to $52,000, somewhere right around here, probably a big pullback from there, and then general continuation towards, the upper 50s, like 56 to 57. Again, it's still possible as long as Bitcoin's kind of playing, basically not breaking its current lows, but and do understand, of course, on the 5-day over here, I think it's a little more obvious on CME, you can still make the argument that this is still just another higher low. I think that's probably not going to work out like that, but this would be sort of the look on it, right? Where you kind of crawl your way in, as long as Bitcoin just doesn't break below about $37,000 on any sort of a higher term time frame closing basis, that is still relevant, I suspect. And then also to that point, a little bit more on the hopium side as well, is the tether dominance chart over here. Now, the tether dominance chart has essentially hit our, well, I wouldn't say our, but at least my area where I am looking for a general pullback, kind of alongside Dixie as well on the higher term timeframes. The problem with this is that just like Dixie, I am long-term bullish on this, but I do think that we could see a greater pullback from this region down to the 360-ish region, maybe even down to the 3.25 region over a longer period of time. But these would still be, macro higher lows, obviously, on your higher term timeframes, and well, I'd have to be bullish on that long term, but basically, if you're wondering why this is relevant, well, the tether dominance typically plays opposite of Bitcoin's direction on the higher term timeframes. Same thing with Dixie as well, right here. I think I put out a Twitter chart on this one last night. It's getting back into the back end of our of our long term sort of pullback region. As I struggle for my words right there. Again, same thing on this one. I'm massively bullish on this long term. Like I really do think that this is probably going to gun for $1.08, $1.11, like in the following years. 3 to 5 years. Who knows how long this takes? This is a quarterly chart right here. But short term on the monthly, I wouldn't be surprised over the next few months we see a pullback, plays back down maybe like the 382, and then gives another try to the upside. But again, the quarterly, long-term, higher-term timeframes, incredibly bullish. Hidden bullish evidence on the quarterly, almost, we've rarely seen that happen. And the last time we did see it happen was a big move over here. And then BBWP volatility has never been lower, basically. So yes, and of course that can be combined with the other underlying market dynamics, which does make me really consider the strength of the bearish case probably over the next few weeks here, especially as we do see the daily BBWP kind of go into a bit of a contraction posturing here. It's not below the moving average just yet, but it is losing its expansive phase right there. So ultimately, what am I basing this off of, and what could we base, or what could I base the majority of this analysis off of? It's actually one of the underlying market dynamics. It's going to be the global open interest. I've gone through this spiel a million goddamn times, so I don't want to bore you with the details of it, but basically anytime that we have seen global open interest get above 13.5 billion, which represents leverage positions, plus a local high being confirmed, which yes, we did certainly confirm one. That was the relevance of the $44,500 region earlier this week, making me quite bearish on this. Well, we have seen at minimum a 20% pullback, at maximum, or and as much as like 50% pullback. As of right now, we played out certainly the majority of that 20% pullback. So far about 18.37. I mean, you could definitely argue that that's enough. If you wanted to go for like the full 20%, that does put Bitcoin at the bottom side of the of the general daily range. So obviously that would be relevant for the short-term time frame, saying that we probably do break down over time perhaps, but also to that point, the big thing for myself is that on this global open interest over here, I do not consider it reset, or at least historically it has not been reset for that sort of unraveling of leverage positions until it gets down to at minimum about 10 billion. I do suspect that over time that will naturally be a higher number, but for right now, I'd feel a lot more comfortable maybe potentially calling a major low if we saw open interest kind of reset down around to those regions. For right now, for reference, it's actually at 12 spot, almost 8 billion. In fact, sorry, no, it's actually closer to 13 billion if we go down to the hourly feed, 12.9 billion to be exact right there. So quite interesting. And it does make me still consider, the strength of the bearish case more long-term here. Again, understand long-term is long-term, not really relevant to like the hourly or the 4 hour, for example. Anyways, as far as that goes, what we should be looking for or sorry, what we should be looking at now is looking at the higher term time frame case, of which we can go to the daily over here. Daily stochastic momentum will actually turn back down again in the critical zone, and this would be again a corrective signal right here. So I don't think it's like super powerful just yet. I think at most, if you were to see it, hit, we'd probably trade down to like 37.5 or something like that and bounce. But it will turn back down below about 39,730 right here. Obviously, CME is going to be from higher, but CME is not trading today and will not be trading until Sunday when it opens up for pre-market. But that one's pivoted at 42,700, so very likely still staying down. Anyways, the big focus of today and really what the focus of this whole video should be is the 5-day signal over here. It still has not left us. The 5-day volatility versus momentum chart. I want to once again explain this, maybe not in full detail, but basically the 5-day BBWP representing volatility. Anytime that we've seen it get down to the teens, or especially even lower than that, the expansive phase from that extreme condition has led towards a pretty significant move, an average move of about 45% to the upside or the downside from that expansive portion over the course of the next, on average, about 40 to a little bit over 40 days, actually. We have still yet to see the expansive phase from this. I need to see, at minimum, a positive slope on the BBWP, and then also above the moving average, as well as a positive slope. We almost got it over here. I got pretty excited about it, but no, that was not it. We still have yet to see it, and it'd be very much relevant to say that because we have seen BBWP this low for this long, the expansive phase in comparison to the last few ones is probably going to be more ridiculous or more powerful, if you will. So while the last few ones did about 40 to 50%, this one probably is going to be on the upper end of that, maybe even more as well. Anyways, the big thing to kind of get a bias on direction for this is this right here, is the 5-day stochastic momentum. It has been working incredibly well. Again, we backtested this for the past couple of years here, or 2.5 years, I suppose now. We can do this more, of course, as well, but I think this is enough. And basically all of these shifts in momentum correlated with the expansion of that 5-day BBWP has gotten those major moves perfectly. Doesn't mean it's always going to work out like that, but good enough is good enough as far as I'm concerned. And if we do look at it over here, 5-day stochastic momentum is going to be closing today, and it will potentially cross down today as well, also playing out a trendline regression test right here with any sort of a closure below $43,000. So understand that, as long as Bitcoin's, especially below the lower term time frame resolution point, which I have at minimum at $41,000 on a 4-hour closing basis, it's very, 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 very far away. Now, the thing is that if Bitcoin can close above about $41,000 on a 4-hour, or if you want to be a little bit more conservative, then 41.5, which probably is the better way to do it anyways, then actually I would be targeting around 43,000 bucks. So it's not impossible, obviously, but it is, in my opinion, quite improbable as of right now. And if we do see that cross down, then I'd still need to see the expansive phase of the 5-day BBWP. But if we get that signal, well, probably looking at, if we're going off of history here, 45% move about to the downside over the next month to month and a half, which would put Bitcoin at around 25,000 bucks. Anyways, that's your nice positive message of the day. Make sure to sign up on Bybit, get wrecked fucking there, and goodbye.